15 years ago or so, I was a major hypoglycemic, and the people around me, the people that knew me, would be like, yeah, this guy has taken a turn for the worse, and somebody needs to stick a sandwich in his mouth real fast. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing how I fixed that problem, because hypoglycemia can present itself with a wide variety of symptoms, things like dizzy spells, chronic fatigue, and even full-on seizures with the right circumstances. But what a lot of people don't know is that this issue can lead to a wide variety of mental or emotional issues. Things like depression, bipolar type symptoms, eating disorders, and a wide variety of other mental and emotional type issues. I mean, there's even a full-on national candy bar campaign that's been around for a long time that shows us how people are kind of like a jerk or no fun or act like a completely different human being when they're hungry. And that's just because they've lost their fuel source. And in the commercials, they give them a candy bar and all of a sudden they're back to being themselves again. And so we see that when we think a person hasn't eaten for a while, but in hypoglycemia, where a person can just lose their fuel source in an abrupt manner, we don't associate that with these mental and emotional and personality type issues. So it kind of throws me off a little bit when people don't make these connections, but by the time you watch this video, you're going to be looking at this connection and being like, well, yeah, hello. So in this video, I'm going to teach you 5 steps you can take to improve hypoglycemia. And the reality is that any one of these steps may be life-changing for you. I got real answers on the way. You're not going to want to miss this.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
In the comments section right now, let me know what type of symptoms that your hypoglycemia creates for you and how long you've been dealing with those. You can even let us know if you've taken any steps that have created any improvement for you. I'm sure everyone else would love to see that. So really go down there and put that in there now. Because most people are confused about what creates these symptoms. You know, a specific food could be fine one day, but then another day it creates all these problems. And the reality is that it's really more about your body's ability to process a specific type of food at a specific time. Because the body chemistry can change on pretty much a consistent basis. So one day everything could be going great, but another day when an imbalance is really pushed in a far, far direction in the wrong way, that food could be really problematic for you. So what we need to understand are different imbalances that can occur in the body, and when these imbalances are severe in one direction, it can really magnify these issues for people, and then all of a sudden they're hypoglycemic. So today we're going to talk about which type of imbalances and malfunctions in the body might push a person toward these hypoglycemic type reactions. And once you understand what can create this, then you can just check to see if you may be dealing with one of these imbalances, and if you are, it's just about taking the steps that'll correct that imbalance. When looking at any type of hypoglycemia, even things like reactive hypoglycemia, we first need to understand minerals and insulin. Now, to make my point easy to understand, I'm going to look at an extreme version of this. So here's how this works. If a person's minerals go really low, that person can have a seizure. And if their blood sugar goes really low, a person can have a seizure. Now, if someone's minerals and blood sugar go really low at the same time, they're even more likely to have a seizure. Now, a person is usually not going to have seizures until both of these issues are extremely low. But the reality is that when one is low, you can buffer the system by raising one. If blood sugar is really low, you can buffer that by raising minerals. If minerals go too low, you can buffer that by raising blood sugar. As long as the system has something to allow signals to travel through and for functions to work correctly, it won't get freaked out and shut the system down with a seizure. Now that doesn't mean that if you're feeling a little hypoglycemic that you're going to have a seizure. Remember, a seizure is an extreme version of this and will be more rare. But what's important to understand is that if both buffering systems are low and not functioning correctly, then the person's going to experience issues. They're going to have these hypoglycemic symptoms, and the hypoglycemic symptoms can just be a lesser version of an extreme situation like a seizure. Now, a lot of people experience blood sugar spikes and crashes where the blood sugar is going to go too low, but they have enough minerals in the system to buffer those low blood sugars so they don't feel it. They don't get those extreme symptoms like a person who has both minerals low and blood sugar low at the same time. So to figure this out for ourselves, we need to get an idea of how our minerals looking in the system and how is insulin processing our glucose. A good first step here is to look at your blood pressure. Blood pressure gives us an indication of the level of minerals in the system, as well as blood sugar and protein and even filth and junk that might be in the system. So a blood pressure could be high, and that doesn't always mean there's a lot of minerals in there. There could just be a lot of filth and junk. But if your systolic blood pressure, which is that top number on most automatic blood pressure cuffs, if that systolic number is under 112, that's a strong sign that there are likely low minerals in the system. And this is really common. We see people with low minerals all the time. And understand, I'm just going to kind of rip through these explanations real quick so this video isn't 45 hours long, but know that if you need more help, we have a free online digestion course that walks you through how to look at your own physiology and figure out if there's imbalances that are creating trouble like this. So we'll put the link to that free course in the description below. Now the next thing we need to figure out is how is insulin operating? Because we hear a lot about insulin resistance in someone whose cells are not listening or responding to insulin, and so blood sugar accumulates in the bloodstream, and then a la peanut butter sandwiches, I'm a type 2 diabetic. So we hear about this all the time, but when there's an imbalance in one direction, that means there can also be an imbalance in the other direction. So if someone has the ability to be insulin resistant and their cells not responding to insulin very well, that means that other people have the ability to almost have their insulin working like it's a bully. It's like their cells are listening to insulin too much. Like, okay, I'll do it. Just don't take my lunch money. So these are people whose insulin is almost like it's overreactive. It's almost like every time a little bit of insulin comes in, it sweeps way too much blood sugar out of the bloodstream way too fast. Now, to get an idea of how your insulin is operating, we can look at our urine pH. Now, when people start talking about pHs and testing pHs, a lot of times they're trying to sell you on this idea that you need to alkalize or you're going to die by Thursday. And this gets even more confusing because there are people whose bloodstream is leaning too on the acidic side, and when they can take steps to balance that out, it'll really improve a lot of health issues. But the reality is that there's a lot of people who are leaning too far on the alkaline side. So when these people are telling everyone they need to alkalize, it's really not true. It's fiction is what it is. It's a nice story, but it's just not accurate. So when I start talking about testing pHs, I don't want you to go down that road. I don't want you to think that that's what I'm talking about. We're not talking about alkalizing a body. That's just not the right way to go. But there are aspects of looking at pHs of different fluids of the body that can give us insights into how things are working at the cellular level and a wide variety of other aspects. So when we look at the pH of our urine, that can give us an idea of whether the insulin might be more on the resistant side, where it's not very strong and not doing a good job, or if that insulin is overpowerful, like a bully, like we're talking about with hypoglycemia. So this is not saying that a urine pH can cause hypoglycemia, but when a urine pH is higher, we see that it tends to correlate with these hypoglycemic type issues where insulin seems to be sweeping out too much blood sugar too quickly. So if you can test your urine pH at least 2 hours after a meal, and if it's 6.0 or higher, that can be an indication that your insulin may be acting a little bit like a bully. So if you have hypoglycemic type symptoms and you see a blood pressure that may be leaning towards the low side, or you see a urine pH that may be leaning too high, all of a sudden your hypoglycemia starts to make a little bit more sense. It starts to tell you that one of these buffering systems isn't working optimally, and if you can correct that, then you can improve a lot of these hypoglycemia symptoms. And a lot of people will see both low blood pressure and high urine pH, signifying that both buffering systems are a little bit whacked. And that's kind of what we see with things like reactive hypoglycemia. It just can be a more extreme version of normal hypoglycemia. It's not that they have totally different causes, it's just that one can be a little bit more extreme and a little bit easier to trigger or set off. So for a lot of people, this information that we've talked about right here can be life-changing. It can really be the answers they've been searching for years or decades. So as we get into these 5 steps that we can take to improve this issue, if you're finding this information helpful, be sure to click the like and subscribe button. That's what tells YouTube to share this video with more people, and you can help more people find the answers just like you're finding your answers now. So let's look at these steps. The number one step that we want to look at is if our urine pH is 6.0 or higher, we want to take steps to bring that down. If we can bring that urine pH down, it seems to reduce the level of a bully that your insulin is. It won't make you sweep so much blood sugar out of the bloodstream so fast and give you that hard sugar crash. So taking steps to lower urine pH can be a big deal. The free course that we talked about, where you can find the link in the description below, that teaches you ways that you can lower your urine pH with food and supplement choices. It's really not that hard. The second step we want to look at is lowering our sugar and carb intake. So here's the problem. A lot of times consuming too many carbs or sugars can push our urine pH higher and make our insulin more effective. And it kind of makes sense if we're eating a lot of carbs and sugars, then the body's just going to say, oh wow, look at all these carbs and sugars coming in. I should become more effective at processing these carbs and sugars and do it more efficiently. So it speeds up the process at which it does that. The problem is it can do it to where it speeds it up too fast. So we want to reduce the level of carbs and sugars that we're consuming so we're not pushing our urine pH so high and causing our insulin to be such a bully. Now a lot of you are saying, well, yeah, well, how do you do that? Because a lot of people with these hypoglycemia issues will try to reduce their carbs and sugars, and it's just impossible. The cravings get out of control. So we're going to come back and we're going to talk about this a little bit more in step number 5, because step number 5 is going to help us achieve that. Step number 3 is we can work to raise our mineral levels. You know, if we can raise those buffering system of the mineral levels, then we won't feel it so much when we do have a sugar crash. Now, we can raise minerals by supplementing with minerals, and a really great one is to use more sea salt. A good quality sea salt can help you lift the minerals. Doctors told us that our Uncle Ben was going to die if he had too much salt, so we all run away from salt, but the reality is that a lot of people really need salt. And there's one salt, Celtic sea salt, flower of the ocean. I'll put the link to that so you can find it on Amazon in the description below. If someone has low blood pressure, this salt can be really effective at helping them lift those mineral levels. But there's one more step that is the best step to lift mineral levels, and we're going to talk about that a little bit again, and guess what? Step number 5. Step number 4 is to always eat your carbs or sugars with protein. When you eat carbs and sugars by themselves, they can get into the bloodstream really fast and create a big spike, which is going to turn around and create a huge crash. But if you eat these carbs and sugars with protein, that protein will slow down how hard and how fast those carbs and sugars hit your system. You can also remove liquid sugars. Liquid sugars hit your system even faster than the candy bar. A lot of people will juice all these fruits and be like, hey, I'm being healthy. They told me to juice the fruits. But they're basically eating like 5 candy bars at once. That's the type of reaction that you create when you put so many liquid sugars in the body at once. So you can remove liquid sugars, and the carbs and sugars that you do eat, try to eat them with protein to slow down how hard they hit your system. Now, number 5 is the most effective step, which is to improve any digestive malfunctions. So if you're dealing with any type of digestive symptoms, it's very likely that digestion is not working optimally. So if you don't have the ability to break down proteins correctly, or if you don't have the ability to emulsify or break down the dietary fats you're consuming, then your body can't get the benefits from those foods. It can't get the nutrients out of those foods, and it can't turn those foods into fuel so that it has resources. So if you're having digestive issues, the reality is that you probably need carbs and sugars, because those are very easy to break down and turn into fuel, especially processed junk. It turns into fuel almost immediately. So when a person can't digest proteins or fats correctly, they will start gravitating towards more and more carbs and sugars, because that's what makes them feel better. That's what gives them fuel and allows them to get off the couch and be a human being. Now, consuming too many of these carbs and sugars creates a lot of problems, like we've talked about in this video. But yet, if a person can't get fuel out of proteins or fats, it's going to be impossible for them to drop or even reduce their carbs and sugars. Because when they reduce those, they're reducing the only fuel source their body can access. So they try and give, oh yeah, I'll drop this cake, I'm not going to eat this junk anymore. And 2 days later they're insane and they have cravings that are unbelievable, and they think, oh, I have no willpower. But it's not about willpower, it's about your body understanding how to get the fuel that it has the ability to process. We need to learn how to work with our bodies instead of against them. So by improving digestion, you can help the body fully break down proteins and fats and get the nutrients out of those foods and turn those into fuel. And if you can do that, then your body won't be screaming for so many carbs and sugars. When we ask our doctor about what steps we can take to improve these hypoglycemia issues, they pretty much like, oh, you can eat every 2 hours. That's pretty much the only advice that they have. And the reason they're saying that is because you need to put something else in there before you get that crash part. Before you hit that sugar crash, you got to get more fuel in there so you get another spike. But eventually that's going to lead to a lot of problems by keeping insulin higher and higher all the time. But the reality is that if you can digest proteins and fats better, then you have this backup fuel source when you run out of sugar. Protein can be like a slow burning log on the fire and sustain you for a much longer period of time than corn chips can. Your body rips through corn chips right away. So we want to improve digestion so that your body can function for longer than 2 hours at a time. You might be busy for 2 hours. A movie is 2 hours. I don't know what they think you're doing, but we want to make our body last longer than 2 hours at a time. So by fixing digestion, our body can start to get more fuel out of proteins and fats, and then we don't need to constantly feed it carbs and sugars. Guess what else proper digestion does? It allows you to break your food down to the point where you actually get to pull the minerals out of that food. Hello? That's the best way to increase your mineral levels, by getting minerals out of the food that you're eating anyways. But if you can't break that food down properly, you can't pull all the minerals out of that food and it just gets wasted. So any type of digestive symptoms that you may be having are a strong sign that you may not be pulling all the minerals out of your food. It's a really big deal. Now the last thing we need to consider is that a lot of people will also be peeing out a lot of minerals. So they may be supplementing with minerals and trying to raise these mineral levels, but they're peeing them out as fast as they dump them in. Now where we see people peeing out most of their minerals is when insulin is very low. Well, guess what? When your insulin is a big bully, you don't need to make a lot of insulin to process the carbs and sugars that you're eating. So your insulins will stay very low. You don't need very much. In that case, a person will often pee out a lot of minerals. So if we can turn your insulin into less of a bully, your body will need to make a little bit more of that insulin to process the carbs and sugars you're eating, and then you won't pee out the minerals that you have. You can keep more in the system, allow them to accumulate, and give yourself that buffering system. So I know I've hit you with a lot of information. I know this can be a little bit confusing, but know that that free course in the description will walk you through these steps step by step. It'll hold your hand and show you how to figure out what's going on with your unique bioindividuality. And then it'll show you step by step steps you can take to correct any imbalances or any digestive malfunctions so that you can put yourself back on the road of working with your body instead of against it. For now, be sure to watch our Optimizing Digestion playlist, because that will help you understand which symptoms can indicate that digestion may not be working well and the steps you can take to improve those issues. I can't wait to hear about your results.